Hey, welcome to the channel. It's Jack, the muscle and mobility maker with Stronghold Strength and Conditioning. And today, I'm going to be showing you how to improve that shoulder internal rotation. But before we get into it, let's take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Saturday, I'm putting out videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance inside the gym and outside of it in your daily life and routine. And it doesn't get better than that. So take advantage of it. Ready? Let's go ahead and dive into this one. All right, like I said, today I'm gonna be showing you how to improve your shoulder internal rotation. But before we dive into the actual exercises here, let's go over why shoulder internal rotation is actually a pretty important thing in the first place here. One of the biggest things that shoulder internal rotation matters for is going to be specific positional stability that we have at our shoulders. So when my arm is in an extended position, internal rotation becomes very important for the stability of my arm. You think of a bad guy getting handcuffed by a policeman, naturally your arm wants to fold into that internally rotated position. But what you might also notice is that their shoulder wants to hike. A lot of times if someone lacks internal rotation, it's because, what you'll see actually is a compensation from the scapula. So when we lack internal rotation at the ball and socket, it pulls the scapula out of position, which can be problematic in specific exercises. In particular, I'm thinking of a bench press type exercise. When you hit the bottom of that bench press and that elbow starts to pass your body, now your arm's going into extension at the shoulder. If you don't have it, it pulls your shoulder blade out of position and you now lose stability in your bench press. It's also particularly important when we throw a punch type movement across the line of our body in that adducted position of the arm here. So those are kind of the two main positions where internal rotation becomes very important to the stability of your shoulder overall. And we need to make sure that we have that so that we can, again, maintain shoulder stability and overall keep the health of your shoulder in that position. What seems to happen with a lot of people these days is that we're actually in this internally rotated position, but it's coming from our scapula, and we don't have full internal rotation of the shoulders, which is causing a shoulder rounding, which can also be coming from our thoracic spine. But today we're going to be focusing specifically on that glenohumeral joint and improving the rotational capacity of the shoulder itself and overall making that as optimal as possible. Ready? Let's go ahead and dive into the exercises here. The first thing we're going to do is address the joint capsule with some banded distraction work. What I want is a band anchored at about hip height on a post, and then I'm going to place it around the front of the shoulder and put my arm in an internally rotated position behind my back. I'm using my free arm to kind of pin my hand there in that position. Once I'm there, I'm going to step out with the leg on the side of the band so that I get to resist that and drive into that resistance as much as possible. I'm going to do some shoulder rolls here, and I want to let myself just get pulled by that band open as much as possible. You can see this from the back angle as well. So I'm performing that with the arm pinned, and I'm really trying to let that band just open up the shoulder at the capsule itself. In the second position, we're actually taking it a little bit lower at the elbow here, and this is going to help pull my arm deeper into that extended position. I want to think about keeping my shoulder blades down and back as much as possible, my abs engaged, my glutes engaged, so that my core is staying solidified here and I'm not compensating from my spine at all. I really want to make that shoulder do the work as much as possible. Do a few shoulder rolls again, and as you flex on the release, you want to let that band pull the elbow back each time and really open up that bicep tissue at the front of the shoulder, those deltoids, all those tissues on the anterior side getting pulled at here. Next, we're going to move the band down to the wrist and go full extension. Here I'm putting both arms in. My thumbs are rotating down toward the floor. This is putting my shoulder in internal rotation as we want here. And then I'm again keeping my butt tight, abs tight, and I'm really leaning against that band, allowing it to pull me up as much as possible. To increase the difficulty, you can increase the height, or to challenge your range a little bit more, you can increase the height of that band as well to really start to pull yourself deeper and deeper into that internally rotated position while the arms are in extension here fully. Next, with the band on one wrist, we're going to place it in that internally rotated position again so that it's pulling us across the body. Again, this can be a little bit sticky getting into and out of. Just take your time at first. It will be challenging for your shoulder. Your goal is to keep your shoulders down and back, chest open, abs engaged, glutes engaged, and just allow that to relax into the position as much as possible. You might feel the biceps getting a little bit of pressure from pulling into the body. That's okay. Again, nice deep breaths, relax into it as much as possible, and try and keep a good core position here. And lastly, with a little bit of a lighter band here, what we're going to do is place our arms inside the band with our fists on our low back behind us so that both arms are internally rotated. Now I'm going to go active in external rotation by pulling that band open for 5 to 10 seconds, engaging those muscles, and then I want to relax and let the band take me deeper and deeper into internal rotation each time. Again, this is one of the more advanced ones. Take your time with it. Use a lighter band to begin with and really build up this position over time. Take your time building this one up. Next, we're going to do a little bit of self-myofascial release while taking the shoulder into internal rotation. What we're doing here is placing the ball on those external rotators and going to the internally rotated position. So I'm just trying to hit those muscles as I'm working through that internal rotation range of motion that would be restricting that range of motion overall. Now, I also want to do a little flex release here. So while I have my arm in this little bit of a sleeper stretch, I'm going to push up against my own hand, resisting for about 5 to 10 seconds in external rotation, and then lowering it down into more internal rotation. So I always want to do a little bit of active and then follow up with some passive here, but it can help to have that self-myofascial release from the ball at the same time, searching for any tender points to the pressure of the ball as you work through that range of motion that we want to normalize. And just as a side note, it can help to do some of the anterior tissues as well, the pec specifically and the anterior deltoid. Again, as I talked about, when we lack internal rotation at the capsule itself, it can pull our scapula out of position. But what tends to happen here is that our pec gets very strong and that anterior deltoid is playing a role in this as well. So it can help to free up those tissues to restore the scapular positioning and your shoulder internal rotation both. So don't write off doing a little bit of self-myofascial release work to the front of the tissues at the anterior side. Even though they are internal rotators, it can be helpful in this case. And now that we've opened up that range of motion, we need to strengthen. So here I've got a double band set up, one above the elbow and one in the hand here. The one above the elbow is actually helping me with adduction, which is part of your rotator cuff action. So we want to make sure that that's getting fired as well. Sometimes you'll see people do it with a towel rolled up under the elbow. I find the band to be a much more effective way to do this. So here we're performing those internal rotations with a double band setup going on. Then we can also do some pressing, but behind the back here. So we're taking that light band once again, and we're performing an internal rotation movement behind the low back, keeping the butt tight, stomach tight, and really focusing on not allowing that to roll me forward. So I want to make sure that I keep my core in a good stable position as I pull that band across the back of my body and strengthen the internal rotation in this movement here. And lastly, I'm always a big fan of kettlebell screwdrivers because the load can help set the shoulder in the joint in a good position, and it can help actually pull us into this internally rotated position some. So I'll use this for both internal and external rotation, but here I'm just showing the internal rotation of it. So I'm going from neutral, and then I'm actively turning into internal rotation, trying to keep my elbow as locked out as I can throughout the movement here. So that's very key, is keeping that elbow straight, locked out as much as possible, and allowing that weight to drive my shoulder back into the capsule. So keeping my shoulders as much down and back as possible, good position, and then allowing that bell to rotate me into internal rotation as I pull it in that direction. Now, if you want to add bonus points, do these bottoms up, because that grip alone will increase the activity of your rotator cuff. So anytime you're doing something bottoms up or something that requires more irradiation and grip from your hand, it's going to automatically light up your rotator cuff more. So we want to pay attention to that, really squeeze that kettlebell grip, keep that bottoms up, and then perform those internal rotations. And you'll be getting, again, some bonus points for that one. All right, and there you have it. Some of my favorite exercises that you can use to improve your shoulder internal rotation and overall shoulder health. If you like this video, make sure you let me know by clicking that big thumbs up down below, and take a moment to share this one with a friend. Maybe you see that they have shoulder issues in general, you've noticed that they lack some range of motion. Share the love with them, pass it along their way. Now, if you're somebody who struggles with shoulder issues, maybe you have aches, pains, or old injuries that are still giving you trouble, keeping you from training the way that you want to, what I want you to do right now, if you're ready to resolve that ache or pain, or you're ready to put those behind you and get back to training normally, is drop down below in the description and fill out a coaching application so that you can schedule a blueprint call directly with me. What we'll do is take you through a quick assessment, look at where your needs are, and then tailor a program specific to those needs so that you can go ahead and resolve those issues in the next 12 weeks. If that sounds good to you, what I want you to do is get in that description right now and take the time to fill out that application and schedule a call, and we'll get moving in the right direction. Last but not least, if you have not already, make sure you take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Saturday, I'm putting out videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance inside the gym and outside of it in your daily life and routine, and it doesn't get better than that. So take advantage of it. Welcome to the Stronghold Army. We'll see you next week.